She doesn't need to hear "I love you." She needs to feel it in the way you look at her, reach for her hand, or stay present when words run dry. After 50, many men grow quieter in love, not because they've stopped feeling, but because they've stopped knowing how to show it. Maybe you're one of them. You provide, you stay, you fix the things that break around the house. You think, isn't that love? Meanwhile, she's wondering why you never say it anymore, why you don't look her in the eyes like you used to, why your touch feels routine. The truth is, love after 50 doesn't look like it did in your 32nd, but for women, it still feels just as important. In fact, more than ever, she needs emotional connection, not grand gestures, just honest presence. Here's what most men miss. You don't have to say, "I love you," out loud if your body already speaks it in ways words never could. So how do you know if you're still showing it? According to Jungian psychology, there are 4 unconscious behaviors that reveal love even when you've run out of ways to say it. And if she sees even one of them in you, she won't be wondering anymore. It happens slowly. You wake up next to the same woman you've shared life with for decades, but something between you feels unfamiliar. You still share a home, maybe a bed, maybe even some laughs, but not the depth you once had. There's a quiet drift, like 2 ships slowly parting on calm water. No fights, no drama, just distance. And if you're honest, you felt it too. Maybe it started when the kids left, or when work no longer defined your days. Maybe it was the moment she stopped reaching for your hand, and you didn't know how to ask why. At this stage in life, many men face the same silent dilemma. We're still together, but are we still connected? The answer isn't always obvious. You still love her, in your own way, but your way has grown quieter, more practical. You fix things, you pay the bills, you stay faithful, but she feels unseen, not unloved, unseen. Here's the truth. Marriage over 50 isn't about passion the way it once was. It's about presence, being there, not just physically but emotionally. Yet that's where most men struggle. We were never taught how to speak the language of emotional connection. We were taught to be strong, to endure, to provide, but no one taught us how to be available, how to express affection without needing to perform, how to stay open, even when we don't have the words. This emotional gap isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because even when love still lives between you, how you show it matters, especially now. And here's the good news. You don't need flowery speeches or dramatic declarations. Often, it's the quietest behaviors, the ones you don't even realize you're doing, that speak the loudest. Coming up, we'll uncover 4 of those behaviors. If you're still in love, they might already be happening. If not, you'll know exactly where to begin. John was 58 when he realized something strange. He had been married for 32 years, slept beside the same woman nearly every night. They'd been through layoffs, kids, illnesses, holidays, life. But one evening, as they lay quietly in bed, his wife said something that stuck with him. "You never look at me." Not really. He brushed it off at first. "Of course I do." But the truth nagged at him. The next time they were intimate, he paid attention, and she was right. He closed his eyes, turned his head, stayed in the moment, but never looked into her eyes. It wasn't because he didn't love her. It was because he didn't know how to handle that much exposure. And he's not alone. For many men, especially in long-term relationships, eye contact during moments of closeness becomes rare or even uncomfortable. Not because love is gone, but because vulnerability feels dangerous. But here's what most don't realize. Eye contact is one of the most powerful ways to say, "I love you," without saying a word. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, called the eyes a window into the unconscious. Unlike words, which can be chosen, filtered, even faked, the eyes don't lie. They reveal when a man is emotionally present, when he's letting his guard down, when he's truly connected, not just going through the motions. In fact, how men show love after 50 often has less to do with performance and more to do with presence. And there's nothing more present than holding someone's gaze when everything else fades. It doesn't require physical intimacy. It can happen in the kitchen, during a walk, or while sitting in silence on the couch. But in those rare moments when you do meet her eyes and stay there, something shifts. You're saying, "I'm here, I see you, I'm letting you see me." And for a woman who spent years wondering if you still feel what you once did, That gaze can feel like a homecoming. This isn't just theory. Therapists who work with older couples often note that the loss of emotional intimacy starts with the loss of eye contact, not just in the bedroom but in daily life. We look at our phones, we look at the television, we look through each other, but not at each other, and over time, that lack of looking becomes a lack of seeing. So here's some honest relationship advice for men over 50. If you want her to feel loved again, look at her. Not just glance. Not just while talking. Hold her gaze, even if it feels awkward at first. Even if you're not sure what to say. Even if your instinct is to look away. That simple act, staying with her eyes, might speak louder than anything you've said in years. John did it. It took practice. But the first time he held her gaze during a quiet moment, she smiled with tears in her eyes. "That's the man I married," she whispered. "He missed him." Sometimes, the way back to love isn't about finding the right words. It's about learning to see again, and letting yourself be seen. Learning to see her again, and to let her see you might be the beginning. But love doesn't stop with being present. It asks for something even deeper, a willingness to give, not just to take. Because when a man is truly in love, her happiness becomes inseparable from his own. This is where many relationships, especially in the later years, quietly unravel, not because love disappears, but because the effort to delight each other fades into routine. And yet, there's something unmistakable about the way a man treats a woman he truly loves. He begins to take joy in her joy. He pays attention to what brings her alive, not out of obligation but out of reverence. It's not about performance. It's not about being a great lover. It's about being attuned, noticing the little things that make her feel cherished. Whether it's brushing her hair out of her face, pausing to ask, "Are you okay?" Or simply taking time to learn what she likes and remembering it. John, the same man who struggled to hold his wife's gaze, once confessed this. "For years I thought intimacy was about me doing it right. Now I realize it's about making her feel safe, relaxed, seen." That shift changed everything. His wife stopped pulling away. She started reaching for him again, not because he got better, but because he got softer, more aware, more generous. This is one of the most overlooked truths in relationship advice for men over 50. You don't need to be younger, stronger, or more skilled. You just need to be more present to her experience. Because that's what women want, especially in long-term marriage. Not perfection, not wild romance every night. Just a man who still cares to please. Not with grand gestures, but with small, thoughtful attention. She notices when you linger afterward, when you check in, when you put her comfort above your own. And here's the twist. The more selfless you become, the more magnetic you become. When a woman feels emotionally and physically cared for, her attraction deepens. She begins to lean in again. Not because she feels obligated, but because she feels chosen. Carl Jung would say this is where the masculine and feminine balance each other. The masculine instinct to pursue is transformed, not into domination, but into devotion. And devotion is contagious. So if things have grown quiet between you, if touch has become routine, if she rarely reaches for you first anymore, don't start by asking, "What's wrong with her?" Start by asking, "When was the last time I gave without expecting? When was the last time I stayed just to make sure she felt good, not just me?" You might be surprised by how quickly she notices and how deeply she responds. Because in love, the smallest gestures often carry the loudest message. You still matter to me. That more than words is how love stays alive after 50. And once a man begins to give not just physically, but emotionally, a CHIA door opens. One that doesn't always appear during the moment, but just after. That's where the truth comes out. Not in passion, but in the silence that follows. Because the way a man acts after intimacy often reveals more than what happened during it. Many men, especially after 50, have fallen into a quiet habit. The moment ends. They roll over. They turn on the television. Or they get up and walk away not out of coldness, but out of conditioning. We've been taught that men are supposed to finish and then move on. That tenderness is fine during sex, but too much afterward? Too needy, too exposed, too emotional. But here's the deeper truth. Those few minutes after closeness, they're often the most emotionally charged of all. When a man stays, when he lingers, when he brushes her hair back, rests his forehead on hers, or simply lays in silence holding her, That is where vulnerability in men shows its truest form. It's not weak. It's sacred. One man shared, "I never talked about my dad. Not once in 60 years. But one night, after being with her, I found myself saying things I didn't know I remembered." This isn't about saying the right thing. It's about allowing something unguarded to come through. A sigh, a memory, a soft question like, "Did that feel good for you?" Asked not for reassurance, but for connection. These are the moments when intimacy after 50 deepens, not because your body is stronger than it used to be, but because your walls are softer. And she feels it, because women know the difference between a man who's done and a man who's still with her, even when the act is over. That staying, that emotional stillness, tells her she's more than a body. It tells her she's a safe place for you too. It tells her you trust her with the part of you. That doesn't get shown to the rest of the world. How to connect emotionally after 50 isn't a mystery. It's not about talking more. It's about being willing to stay when the urge is to pull away. To sit in silence, even if you don't have words. To reach for her hand, not to start something new, but to honor what just happened. Men who do this aren't more romantic. They're more whole. They face their own discomfort with softness. They've stopped seeing emotion as a weakness and started treating it like a bridge. So if you've ever wondered why she seems distant, or why she doesn't open up after intimacy, ask yourself this: do I stay or do I retreat? Do I lean in or shut down? Your answer might say more than anything you've ever told her, because sometimes the deepest "I love you" is whispered, not in words, but in the silence where you refuse to leave. And sometimes the deepest connections aren't spoken or even touched. They're felt in the most subtle, instinctive ways. After all the words have been said, after the closeness, the laughter, the stillness, there's something else that can happen between two people in love. The body begins to mirror the soul. Maybe you've noticed it before and didn't think much of it. You shift in bed, and she shifts too. You breathe slower, and she seems to match it. You reach out, and her hand is already there. It's not planned. It's not romantic in the movie script way. It's something deeper, older, almost sacred. Carl Jung described this as participation mystique, a mystical resonance between people whose spirits have started to move in harmony. Not just emotionally, not just physically, but unconsciously. In marriage over 50, this kind of attunement can feel quiet but powerful. There may not be fireworks, but there's alignment, a deep emotional connection that doesn't need words or validation, just presence. One man shared a moment like this with his wife of 38 years. It was raining. We were lying in bed, not saying a word. She let out a little laugh. I laughed too, same time, same breath. I asked her why she laughed. She said, "I don't know. The rain just made me happy." And I realized. So did I. And somehow, my body already knew. These are the moments most men overlook. Not because they aren't meaningful, but because they aren't loud. But in the stillness, when your nervous systems align, when her shoulder fits perfectly into yours, when your breaths fall into rhythm, when your limbs tangle without effort, you're no longer two people sharing space. You're sharing being. This is what love becomes after decades. Not intensity but intimacy. Not heat but harmony. And it matters more than we know. Because even when desire changes, even when energy fades, the body still speaks. And if you're still in love, it will find a way to show it. Unconscious love behavior is just that. A hand that finds hers before you think about it. A sigh at the same moment. A quiet smile exchanged when no words are needed. If you could film your love without sound, what would it look like? A lingering touch before sleep. A quiet coffee shared in the morning light. A soft pause in the hallway where your shoulders brush and no words are needed. That's the real love story, the one only the two of you can see. These micro movements say, "I'm still here. You still move me. We're still us." So don't look for the big declarations. Don't wait for a dramatic turning point. Sometimes, the proof that your love still lives is in the way your body leans without thinking, the way your heartbeat slows when she's near, the way you both feel calm, in sync, at home. That's not just habit. That's not just routine. That is what happens when two lives have learned how to breathe together, and that more than anything is the kind of love that doesn't fade with time. It only gets quieter and deeper. Maybe you've never been the kind of man who says, "I love you," out loud. That's okay. Because the truth is, you don't have to say it. If your actions are already speaking it loud enough, a lingering glance, a quiet moment after intimacy, a hand that reaches out without thinking. These are not small things. They are the language of love, especially after 50. And here's the part most men forget. She's still listening, not to your words but to your presence. You may think she knows how you feel, but she may be wondering if you still feel anything at all. So ask yourself this: are you showing your love in the ways she truly feels it? Not just through providing, not just through staying, but through connection, attention, openness. Because the longer we're married, the easier it is to drift into habit and out of intimacy. That's one of the quietest but most dangerous marriage challenges we face after 50. But you can bring it back. Not with speeches, not with flowers, with presence, with the unconscious gestures that say, "You still matter, I still choose you." That's the kind of love that lasts. That's the kind of love she remembers. And that's the kind of man you still are. If this reminded you of your own marriage, past or present, we'd love to hear what part of this message spoke to you most. Leave a comment below. Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you're ready to go even deeper, in our next episode, we'll uncover the subtle red flags in long-term relationships, the early warning signs that emotional disconnection may be creeping in, and what you can do to turn things around. Because real love, the kind that survives time, isn't about never drifting apart. It's about always finding your way back.